is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower. Book 7, The Dark Tower. Chapters 4, 5, and 6. Oopsie. Natasha read an extra chapter by accident. Might be. It was really good, though. Welcome to Unspoiled. Sorry, guys. Yeah, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
I'm Miles.
Yeah, and so you said 2 chaps, and I was at the end of the second chapter going, wow, these are kind of long. I'm surprised he said to do 3. Well, who knows? And I just started on the third one, even though I should have thought about what my gut was telling me.
To be clear, we said 2, and I was thinking about maybe dropping it to 1.
Whoops. Well...
So you were like, man, you texted me, you were like, man, those 3 chapters are really long. And I'm like, yeah, because there were 3 of them.
So we're going to have a long episode today, maybe,
yeah,
but,
for sure.
You know, it's fine.
We'll see. We'll see how we do.
But I'm really happy because guess what? The baby was born. A bouncing baby arachnid. And I'm really glad that that's done. And it was horrifying. And everything about it was so much worse than I expected. And I like that a lot because I have been horrified over and over again by these animal creatures that are all around. So I should have maybe seen this coming, that this baby was not going to be all baby. But
well, it's all creepy when it first comes out, right? Because it's like big and its eyes are open and it's got teeth and it's like, oh god, that's a weird baby.
Boner.
Yeah, of course the fucking baby boner, naturally.
Why does he do
And
this?
of course he brings it up like 5 times. Like he's not content to just mention it once.
Talking about it. She kisses the baby all over and he makes sure to mention how she kisses the tip of its tiny penis.
Right, just the tip of its penis.
Like, all right, backing it up. Let's start. Let's start from the start.
First of all, yay, Susannah's back.
Oh,
Whee!
thank God. Yeah, Susannah she sees Eddie and Roland up in the air and gives them the word, which is actually a word that she got from Mia. And she's like watching the room and keeps trying to roll over to grab the gun from someone.
When we first encounter her in the scene, she is counting the people in the room. Because she's already thinking about, like, all right, at some point this is going to be over, and I'm going to need to figure out whose gun I'm grabbing and who I'm shooting first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she keeps trying to roll over, and they're not letting her. And when she finally does get an opportunity to grab the gun from somebody, the shit has really started to go down. So she isn't thinking about that anymore. And
yeah, because she's as entranced as everyone else by what's happening.
Yeah. So the baby comes out, and it looks like a baby, except kind of off in a few ways. As we've stated, baby boner. And
we should also say that, like, Mia telling Susannah this word, that chassit, like, which is a password, is kind of part of this little unspoken agreement they make. Right here, which is like, so she's going to give Susannah this password, and Susannah says that she's going to try and help Mia get away with the baby, and if she can't, she's going to kill them.
Right.
Literally none of that ends up happening.
Nope. Because things don't go in any way the way that Susannah theorized they might go. Like, she's thinking of a couple different potential outcomes here, and none of them are what actually happens. Because the first thing that she notices is that when she gives birth and she sees Mia's face for the first time after, she realizes Mia's sanity has been completely broken.
It's gone.
And there goes another thing that did not occur to me, which I'm curious what that's actually about. Like, is it the connection between the two of them? Did the baby, like, steal it? Like, the way it...
Like her sanity?
Yeah.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Did he absorb what, like, rationality there was in her and take it? Because it's like able to just straight up talk in full ass sentences later. So it feels like there's like a little pouch in her brain that says language, and he just grabbed it and took it.
I got a sense more like it was just the strain of having it. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying that pregnancy drives all women insane, although I'm sure I know a few websites where that would be a very popular opinion.
I mean, postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis are not as uncommon as we think they are.
I mean, that's true, but this is more intense than that. So it's like, I think that it was just, you've just given birth to the Antichrist.
Right, yeah.
And you weren't all that mentally stable to begin with.
I'm trying to find exactly the spot. Oh, here it is. Okay. Mia turned around at once so she could look at him, and Susannah's heart froze with dismay and horror, for Mia had run mad. It was brilliant in her eyes. It was in the way her mouth managed to sneer and smile at the same time, while drool, pinked and thickened with blood from her bitten tongue, trickled down the sides of her chin. Most of all, it was in her triumphant laughter. She might come back to sanity in the days ahead, but... Bitch ain't never coming back, Detta said, not without sympathy. Getting this far and then getting shed... And what is it? And then getting shed of it done broke her. She busted. Yeah. And you know it as well as I do. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really feels to me like... Especially because... like, one of the last things that Mia actually does before going crazy is she asks Sarah again if she's going to be allowed to keep the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he says yes. And, like, she knows it's a lie.
Yeah.
Right? So it feels to me like kind of the actual fact of the baby's birth creates so much, I guess, cognitive dissonance in her. Because, like, this is the moment where she's going to know that we're never going to keep their promise, and that the baby's going to be taken, and that she's going to be killed or abandoned. So, like, maybe going crazy was kind of an escape from that, because she knew it was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I could see that.
That's my thought.
Oh, God. See thy prick and thy balls as smooth as new peaches. Why you gotta do this to me, Stephen? Anyway...
Do you ever wonder if, like, to be a popular writer, there's, like, a requisite, like, number of times you have to talk about, like, erect penises and nipples and, like...
I just feel like there's almost like there's an edgelord quota with how many times can I make you uncomfortable?
Like, if you go to Tor, right, and you say, hey, will you publish my book? Will they be like, hey, you know what, this looks really good, but unfortunately it has fewer than the required amount of 200 penis references? And so we're going to have to ask if you can go back and, like, put some more of those in somehow and then resubmit it. You're welcome to try again.
Oh, God. It's so uncomfortable and I hate it.
Yeah, it has to be, like, penises or, like, nipples or weird sex or all of them.
Yeah, just a lot of things that out of context, when you just try to describe them, they don't sound quite as horribly unnerving as they are in context. Saying, like, a baby with an erection, you're gonna be like, yeah, that's weird. But, like, once you're in this moment, it's even weirder. And then, well, anyway, all right. So, they tell Mia to nurse the baby, and she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does.
And he starts to drink, and it seems normal. And then Susannah saw a red light run down the child's smooth skin from the crown of its head to the stained heel of its right foot. It was not a flush, but a flash, lighting the child from without. Susannah would have sworn it. And then, as it lay upon Mia's deflated stomach with its lips clamped around her nipple, The red flash was followed by a blackness that rose up and spread, turning the child into a lightless gnome, a negative of the rosy baby that had escaped Mia's womb. At the same time, its body began to shrivel, its legs pulling up and melting into its belly, its head sliding down and pulling Mia's breast with it into its neck, which puffed up like the throat of a toad. Its blue eyes turned to tar, then back to blue again. Tumors swelled along the black thing's sides, then burst and extruded legs. The red mark which had ridden the heel was still visible, but now had become a blob like the crimson brand on a black widow spider's belly. For that was what this thing was, a spider. Yet the baby was not entirely gone. A white excrescence rose from the spider's back. In it, Susannah could see a tiny deformed face and blue sparks that were eyes.
He's not that bad, Harry. He just needs someone to love him.
Holy shit. That was super unexpected. And you know, I had seen in association with Dark Tower stuff when I'm like, you know, image searching, I try to be careful, and for the most part, I have avoided anything like that would give me an indication of what the hell was coming. You know, the images by themselves often don't mean anything because everything is so bizarre in this universe that there's no way to know what the fuck it means. But this, I had seen somebody with spider legs, but I didn't. I guess I just figured eventually, now that we've met a bunch of animal people,
sure,
fake, I just figured, you know, oh, somebody looks like a person, and then it turns out that they have a, you know, the human skin over their spider body. I didn't think that this was gonna be the spider guy. And he starts drinking her blood, and she doesn't even, like, start to flip out or anything. She just gets this, like, creepy smile and freezes and starts to drain of color. And he drinks every drop of moisture out of her until she turns to white powder and splits open.
She's falling apart, right? Like, as he's doing this. And, like, it's unclear to me if this is a thing where, like, the act of nursing him kills her, or if, like, she dies because she's done what she needed to do.
No, I'm pretty sure nursing is because the way that the timing of it is, the blood starts to come out instead of milk, and she goes, "What the hell?" And then and seems to realize. Then she stops and, like, starts smiling again and says, "Isn't he as beautiful as the summer sun?" And then she sort of seems to stiffen and freeze up. And I think that's a result of the moisture just going. And then it starts to become more and more intense, where she just looks like a drawing, as Susannah thinks, and she's smiling, and then her head starts to split apart. And her mouth is still smiling as it splits apart. And then the thing climbs up into the broken open part and starts, like, scrabbling around in there, and it eats her breast off.
Yeah, and chews it up. Yeah. There's a couple of things that I think bear mentioning here. The first one is that I found it really terrifying. I think more even than, like, what happens with the spider, the moment where, like, she finally has the baby and everyone cheers.
Yeah.
And Susannah realizes that she's doing it too. Mm-hmm. That's the creepiest thing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and the other thing is that this fucking robot has walked in with an incubator.
Oh my god!
Because apparently they thought they might need one, and he's gonna be around for the rest of the chapter.
He is pretty adorable.
He's pretty great.
Pardon me, sirs, but would you be wanting this incubator after all? The situation seems to have altered somewhat, if you don't mind me saying. You think?
I like he's just seeing, like, the kid turn into a spider, he eats mom, he's like, yeah, so this is a little different. You want me to stay? Or, because I could leave. It wouldn't be a problem.
So this is when Susannah loses her mind and goes nuts with gunning.
Yeah, she does.
She just murders the fuck out of practically everybody. Like, 2 people get away, and 1 comes back.
Yeah, and then she murders the fuck out of him still.
She's like, well, you got 1 chance to get away. You're not getting another one.
I love the little, like, the litany in her head, too, where she's like, all right, the vampire with the lightsaber, I'm going to take him out first. Mm-hmm. And then, like, the one dude keeps pulling her back when she tries to get closer to the gun, and she's like, all right, you know what? You're first. Mm-hmm. But then she ends up shooting the doctor first, so, you know.
And she shoots out the eyeballs of the robot.
Of the robot, yeah.
I have been blinded by gunfire. Vision 0. I need help. Code 7. I say help. Oh my god. I love this robot. He's adorable, and I don't want anything to happen to him.
He starts doing the alarm thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, fuck!" Mm-hmm. She kills Sayre, which is nice of her.
Mm-hmm. Appreciated
she
that.
Puts 2 bullets in him, 1 for Mia and 1 for Callahan, which is nice because he's the one who tricked Callahan into coming into that building.
Right.
At the end of his story where he had to jump out the window. And she does her best, to her credit, she really does her best to kill the spider.
Yeah, she does.
Which I remember when I was reading this, I was like, alright, what are you going to do now? Because that thing is like, there's no ambiguity here.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of wondering that too. Like, before it turned into a spider, I was like, are we going to have a thing where she's actually kind of fond of this creepy baby? And then it turned into a spider, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that negates that, but I don't know. I don't really understand, like, maternal instinct and impulses and stuff. So for all I know, you know, it's Rosemary's Baby. She sees that there's something wrong with him, but she's still, like, cooing and loving him. Have you seen Rosemary's Baby?
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, there you go. I never read it, though. I need to read it.
No, I never read it either. The movie is fantastic. I think that, you know... I don't know. I have a... We don't have to talk about Rosemary's Baby. It's fine. I think the ending is a little bit open to interpretation. I've heard that the book is just as good. But oh, I'm sure.
There were some sequels that weren't so great.
Were there really? There were sequels to
yeah.
Rosemary's
There
Baby?
were like 3, I think, or
what?
2. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like the devil growing up.
Oh, God, no.
I haven't read them. I shouldn't just say they're terrible, but like the whole concept sounds goofy as hell.
Well, I just love the way Rosemary's Baby ends. I love that it ends on that scene and then cuts. Like, it's one of my favorite things about that film. I do not need a sequel to that movie.
Yeah, agreed. So she approaches it and is leveling the guns at it, and it's like, you cannot, for I am the king's only son. And she's like, yeah, okay. And is about to pull the trigger, and then this fucking guy who came back in just nicks her a little bit and distracts her, and she has to duck. And it comes toward her and says, you'd do well to let me pass, Blackie.
I was gonna comment on this.
Racist ass spider.
So people can be born racist, apparently.
I like, too, that the fucking spider is black. So
yeah, that's true.
You know, whatever.
That's fucked up. That's like, I don't even know what that says about racist issues. I don't. That's probably not like a deep message that King is trying to pass along. Even though so much of the series has been about racism at certain points, I don't really think. I think it feels to me more like, hey, look, the spider's a racist asshole. It's okay if it gets shot,
right?
You know, but
yeah, that's fair. Just have him be like abominable. Just say terrible shit. Yeah. So,
but like to have like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, to have the white baby turn into something black and then use I mean, it's not. It's a slur, right? It's not like the worst slur, but it is one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. If you wanted to interpret that, you could probably say stuff about like institutionalized like self-hating racism and, you know, appropriation and all kinds of shit. I don't know. You could probably write a whole paper about it.
Probably, like, yeah. I don't know. After the whole thing that I was talking about at the end of the last book, where I was like, well, clearly Mia represents the white worker who has no idea what her own best interests are.
Which I think is still true.
Yeah, and then she gets literally sucked dry.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's fine. No symbolism there. So, she clips him, the leg of the spider, which is pretty good. She
actually shoots it off.
She does?
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going back. Oh, yeah. Here. Oh, clipping off one of its 8. I didn't even see the off. I just saw clipping one of its 8 legs.
Yeah, no, she takes that leg off.
Yeah. I'll pay you back for that. My father and I will pay you back. Do you know who my father is? He'll hear about this. He's on the board.
I've been reading this comic called The Wicked and the Divine recently, which is really good. And I posted a panel of it up on Facebook the other day, just because I really enjoyed this reporter is talking to one of the characters, and he's this like supremely evil fuck, but he's really smart. He's just an asshole.
Okay.
And he's talking about patriarchy, and the point he makes is like, you know, look, patriarchy doesn't mean rule by men. Mm-hmm. It means rule by fathers. Mm-hmm. And most men, in a social, societal sense, don't get to be the fathers. You're all sons, and sons get sacrificed.
Interesting.
I thought it was interesting, and it kind of, there's a parallel there with what you were saying about kind of the, Mia is the white worker who thinks that that people have her best interests at heart when really she's being exploited. And, just immediately the spider is like, oh, me and my dad, we're going to get you.
Me and my daddy, you don't know. I can have you fired. So she hears Jake earlier, and he's like so relieved to hear her. And then he goes away. And she's trying to get back in touch with him here, and she can't do it. And she just hears Wimaway.
Oh my god.
And here, you don't know what this means. But then later you're in his head and it's a Wimaway, a Wimaway, a Wimaway, a Wimaway. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That was really off-key, Miles.
I think you were off-key. I mean...
How could you tell? You couldn't hear me, you goddamn liar.
The only way for me to be off-key with you is if you were off-key. I think. I don't know. Anyway. It's funny, though, because I was reading this again today, and I got to this part, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Right?
Like, I know that means something important.
Yeah.
I know it's a big deal. What the fuck was it? I forget. Oh, well, I guess you get to find out. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right, the fucking song.
It does not mean anything important.
Nope.
So, yeah, so the fucking robot is named Nigel, which,
yes,
of course.
Of course.
And he is really cooperative. Like, she's concerned about him and is just, she had a bad experience, man, with Andy. And Nigel looks almost exactly the same as Andy does. And it turns out that Nigel is not programmed to be a creepster, as far as we know. He's actually kind of adorable and really bummed that he can't see anymore.
Oh, shit, I guess all robots aren't just the same because they look the same, huh, Susannah?
Hashtag not all robots. So she asks him to pick her up and carry her, and he does it. And he tells her, because she wants to go back to the door that she came through, and he's like, well, you know, it's one way, so you can't, like, and he says, but the default is still there. And she's like, what's that? And he says, that would be New York number 9/FedEx. At one time, there were over 30 one-way to New York to FedEx ports, but I believe number 9 is the only one that remains. All commands pertaining to New York number 7/FedEx will now have defaulted to number 9. So, that's weird. I don't really know what to make of this whole thing. And we see later that there are, like, advertisements to going back to certain points in time.
Yeah, there's the one. Susannah passes a door to Dallas, November 1963, which already has significance, and I'm sure would have a lot more significance to me if I had read that one King book. That's like 11, whatever the day was, 63. Because I know that ties into all this shit, like most of his books do. And then there's the other good one where it's like, I think Jake sees the one where it's like, visit September 11th, 2001. Have a great time.
Oh, God. That one.
And Jake's like, what happens then? I don't know. Fuck it.
Yeah. That's weird. So she gets brought, basically, long story short, she gets taken down through a bunch of, like, ruins.
Oh man, and she does that thing right before she leaves where she, like, sees how... That thing that Susannah does where she can kind of see how a place used to be.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
And she sees it with the kids who were taken in from Calibre and Sturgis, like, screaming as their brains were messed with or whatever it was done to them. That's a really creepy way to end that this particular set piece. Yeah,
and they all hear the woman's voice and... They think that, oh, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. And maybe even the rats, the rat nurses aren't so bad, despite how they look, like trying to make the best out of it mentally. And then it turns out that they are about to be horribly tortured.
Yup.
So that's fun.
So they get to the door and, I mean, she can't open it from this side, right? So she has to wait for Jake. She's kind of, because she heard Jake in her head, so she's hoping that she'll hear him again. And she has a feeling that he is trying to be quiet for some reason.
Right. And because it took me, like, I didn't understand this at first. I thought that she and Jake were on the same side. That, like, you know, because he came in through the, what do you call it?
Like the kitchen?
Yeah. So I thought that he was heading down towards where she was and that they were on the same side. And it took me reading his chapter to realize, like, oh, no, he is still he's in a different place and she got brought through, but he never actually made it and got redirected through this other way. So, yeah. So she was waiting for him to come so that he could pull her through to his side. But what winds up happening is that he gets pulled through to her side because he's being chased. So that does not work out the way that she had planned either.
Nigel has a little Marvin the robot from Hitchhiker's Guide in him. A little bit of that melancholy.
I don't remember that very well, the Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh, it's a good book.
I know. I read it and I really enjoyed it, but I just don't remember a lot of it. It's one of those books that had so much going on, so many little, you know, kind of weird vignettes and sub-stories and stuff that I kind of lost track of things.
It's harder to sympathize with Marvin than it is with Nigel, because Nigel's kind of like, oh, I wish that I had my eyes still and that I wasn't going to die.
Right.
Whereas Marvin's like, Marvin in this situation be like, yes, it's okay. I always knew I would get my eyes shot out one day. Really, they weren't very useful, but who cares about my suffering? I'm going to die now.
Nigel cracks me up because he keeps on being like, yeah, you shot him out, remember? Like, he's so, like, putting the guilt on.
Politely, though. He's always like, if you recall, she tells him to do something at one point, and he's like, yeah, I can't see.
Right.
I believe you were the one who actually blinded me. So you should probably know that.
Everyone, I'm sorry for the weird break there. I had a bizarre problem with my Bluetooth suddenly disconnecting from both my mouse and keyboard at once, and I had to call an emergency brake and get a backup wired mouse so that I could save everything before restarting my computer. So that's cool.
It's real great.
I am just Mercury retrograde. That's all I gotta say. Y'all know.
I don't. What's that?
It's the thing that my mom, who is really into astrology, always blames when shit goes wrong. And actually, Mercury is retrograde right now. But it has to do, like, supposedly, the planet rules things like communication, specifically stuff that has to do with technology and, mechanics. Uh-huh. So lots of car problems, lots of computer problems, weird phone problems, losing internet, losing phone service. Your plane's going to get delayed. You're going to have, like that kind of shit.
Well, I mean, it would account for the fact that for some reason, our phone connection was being weird today. We switched over to talking on the phone because Skype was being such a douche. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't working. The phone connection was so shitty that we went back to Skype tonight, and Skype's working fine. So,
yeah, Skype's great now.
Fuck you, Mercury.
Yeah. And, I mean, people laugh all you want, but I have most definitely seen upticks around when Mercury is supposedly retrograde. I've not done a study. I haven't got a control group. And Lord knows I fucking have tech issues all the goddamn motherfucking time. So, who can tell? But,
So, where were we?
We had just finished me talking about how the robot is trying to guilt Susannah for shooting his eyeballs out.
Right.
And when he drops her off at the door, she's like, well, is there somewhere you can go where they can fix your eyes? And he's like, yeah, oh, sure, like a 1% chance that there's somebody who can. But yeah, I guess, sure, I'll just go look for them. It's pretty.
And she's like, are you going to be able to find your way there? And he's like, yeah, I'm using infrared, even though it sucks. Mm-hmm. But I'm using it. It's like somebody who has to, whose browser isn't working, so they have to use Internet Explorer.
Oh my god. I like that you don't even call Internet Explorer a browser. It's so bad that it's its own subspecies of program.
It is. It's an abomination, is what it is.
I love to. They pass by this other. It's a steel ball on legs that goes "Haup, haup," and Nigel responds "Haup, haup," and then says to Susannah in the confidential tone certain gossipy people adopt when discussing those who are unfortunate. He's a mech foreman and has been stuck there for over 800 years. Fried boards, I imagine. Poor soul, but he still tries to do his best. I love you, Nigel. Be my friend.
I really love that throughout this whole section we're talking about, that's kind of a thing. The whole, shit has broken down is kind of back in a big way. And, because Jake runs into some dude who's like, where are you going? I'm a robot. I can't do anything else, but I'm programmed to ask where you're going. And then later, with the fucking mind trap generators, the one dude is like, well, shit, if we fucking take him out, nobody can get him working again. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I really appreciate that aspect of King's world building here.
Yeah, same. I agree. So she gets dropped off there.
Yep.
And then we're going to go into Jake's whim away.
Chapter 5, In the Jungle, the Mighty Jungle.
So, we recently got a review, a new review, and I think it was all 5 stars, which is lovely, thank you. After the one that was like, Natasha talks about her childhood too much, and I'm like, I can't, I'm sorry. But they said, it's Mad Olaf from the United States, 5 stars, great. There aren't enough good shows that go over the Dark Tower. I love Natasha's constant worry about Oi's fate and Miles's annoyance at all the Kamala-ing. Book 7 is my favorite of the bunch. I can't wait for both of you to read it, and I hope you share my love for the book once it's all over. So thank you, Matt Olaf, very much for that review.
Yeah, you got an early one in.
Very accurate, because Oe was like the forefront of my mind throughout this whole thing, as he is wont to be.
And I can't believe that I didn't even comment on the fact that fucking Mia says Kamala come when she's trying to push out her baby. It's like, oh my god, stop.
Yep.
That's
true. So Jake is trying to find Susannah, and he goes through the fucking kitchen, and there is a giant boar that's roasting a pig, which just seems rude. And Jake uses his discs. What are they? Plates?
Arizas.
Arizas, thank you. Could not remember the word.
Which he apparently is great at throwing. I don't remember when that happened, but apparently he's great at it.
He's just so good.
Yeah.
Everything just works out.
It's Jake, man. Jake's the best.
So, yeah, he cuts off that guy's head. He cuts off the head of the cat that's washing dishes. And then there's a little boy. And he's really, really stupid. And Jake is trying to be like, hey, guy, you can get out of here now, by the way. And the kid's kind of just like, but why? Where? Come on.
Right. Yeah, he's like, he's trying to have this conversation with him, and the kid's like, no, they'll find me. And he's like, but it's New York. The kid's like, yeah.
Right.
And
I like
that I'm wasting my time.
Jake at first is like, he doesn't get it. And then he stops and goes, maybe I'm the one who doesn't get it. I was like, yeah, Jake. Like, you don't just walk up on out of a place that you've been attached to into a completely alien world because somebody assures you it'll be better there. Like, how the fuck should you know? Why would I believe you? No. I felt for this kid, honestly.
Yeah. I'm glad Jake didn't kill him.
Same. Yeah. And then Jake has this place kind of cordoned off because of just the one doorway. So bad guys keep trying to come in, and he just keeps on nailing them.
Keeps decapitating them.
Oh my god, it's really something. And there's a voice that comes into his head. And the voice is like, hey, your friend there, he's dead, by the way. And you may as well just
head?
I thought it was in his head, yeah.
I think the guy shouts it, I thought.
Oh, does he? Oh, I thought it started
he
out
yells
here.
through the door.
Okay. Well, nevertheless, even if it is just shouting, a second later, Jake can feel, right after he first says, Susan, is that you? He can feel a hand in his mind.
Yes. And
he has to picture slamming all the doors really hard. And when he does that, there's he can tell that whatever it was that was reaching in there, gives a little yelp of pain.
Yeah.
Which the whole idea of this is so bizarre, and I really liked it, you know?
It's a really nice description of how telepathy works in this universe. I just really enjoy that, I don't know, I like that it's specific, but it's vague enough where it's okay, you have to imagine shit. You have to turn your intent into an actual focused action in your mind to get anything done. And it's just nice that it's consistent. It's nice that we have almost a lexicon for the way it works. Later on, they talk about Jake's Dogen, the way that Susannah's Dogen was working, and and he and Oi do the body swap thing, which is pretty adorable. But I don't know. I dig that it's just we have a nice system for it, and it doesn't have to be overly explained. It's just okay. This is how fucking people's heads works.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, this is actually, it reminds me a little bit of in the Dresden Files. It comes to light a little bit later on. There's this thing called the soul gaze, which is when you make eye contact with somebody for long enough, you get to kind of see exactly who they are. And when we're in Harry's point of view, that's all in symbolism and visual like references and cues, and he finds out later that that's not how it is for everyone. That for some people it's like an overall feeling, like a sense, but for him it's very, very visual. And I thought that was really interesting because, you know, I just assumed that would be how it was for everybody, but that it's not. So while I'm fine with it working the same way for him as it does for Susannah, it would have been interesting if it was like not quite the same. But yeah. I think it makes sense when it's not, when this is just a specific quartet and not necessarily like an ability that everybody has, to keep it simple and have them all sort of handle it the same way.
My understanding of the Dresden universe is that one of the appeals of it is that he does have a very, like, well fleshed out magic system that is, you know, that kind of he clearly gave a lot of thought to. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised to see, you know, King playing it a little bit faster and looser here as opposed to Butcher. You know, he's writing books about wizards, so it's like how magic works is part of your process. Someday I should go back and read those books again. I tried to read Stormfront. I think I've talked about this.
Yeah, Stormfront's definitely, it's the weakest in terms of like overall writing style, and it's also one of the less interesting stories for sure.
Yeah, and I just have some issues with Jim Butcher in a few different ways. Mm-hmm. So, because he's kind of a douchebag politically.
I did not know that, but don't tell me because I don't want to know that.
No, that's fine. I mean, he's a very good writer, and I really enjoyed the first book of his fantasy series, though admittedly not enough to go read the second one.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at this, and actually I said that it gives a little yelp of pain, but it's actually something screamed in agony.
Oh, yeah.
So, my bad. A little more dramatic.
A little yelp, scream of agony.
Yeah, no.
The kid also, Jochabim, I think, that's how I'm going to choose to pronounce his name in this case.
Okay.
Tells Jake, very importantly, to mind the mind trap.
Yeah, very importantly and very unhelpfully, as people love to do, just in books, period, not just here. Just
I would say really it helps.
Fucking vague.
It helps in that it gives Jake the notion in his head that there might be such a thing as a mind trap, mm-hmm. which I feel like helps break him out of it. But yeah, it's not the greatest clue in the world, kid.
So him and Oi are heading out, like trying to escape these guys who are coming after him, and the chase, like, I don't feel like this is addressed often enough, but fucking Jake is really deeply exhausted. Yeah. He has not slept in days. He's been going all fucking out for God knows how long at this point, trying to find Susannah and follow her and everything. And, he stops at one point to pee, and it really hits him once he has like a second to stop and think that Father Callahan is dead, and he gets really upset, and Oi has to be like, "Hey, buddy, you all right?"
Yeah, Oi's the best.
Oi's the best. So I really like that we get a little moment like that, and he has to start jogging again. He makes himself, and I like that he. Like, once, it really is true too, even when you're exhausted, once you start, there is this sort of momentum that will carry you, but it's really the getting started that can be the super hard part.
Yeah.
And he is noticing that there's something coming up through the tile floor, the cracks in the floor.
And the walls.
And and he's like, singing this song still, and then he starts to realize that this is a jungle, and he hears a lion roar and a monkey. And I'm thinking his singing the song had, like, created this, right?
Because he just randomly kind of started singing in the jungle, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, as he's running down. Which, like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure I would be singing in this circumstance, but it's fine.
He's trying to do something to, like, keep himself, like, you know, running.
Yeah. But Oi doesn't see any of this.
No.
And Oi's going like, hey, dude, come on. Like, let's go.
I like that we get a little POV of Oi, too.
We do get some Oi POV here. It's fucking fantastic.
Cute. I love him. I love him.
I know.
Such purity. And so we find out, like, because that's what I assumed was going on, but then we get a flashback. And there was this nanny that he had who he loved. And she was super, like, attentive and actually listened to him and had a nickname for him and a ritual to, like, doing snacks for them in the afternoon.
Yeah. I don't know if she was super attentive, but she was definitely, like, the only one who was at all attentive.
Yeah, I guess super attentive is very, you know, it's a very subjective thing. And for a kid who's ignored all the time, not a lot it's not going to be hard to reach the threshold of super attentive in his eyes.
Yeah. And it's also, man, this whole thing, like, part of me doesn't understand why this is framed the way it is. Because, like, King could have just been like, when Jake was a kid, he saw this movie. And, like, he could have... The presence of Mrs. Shaw in this part, I'm not going to say it doesn't add anything, but it doesn't add anything narratively. Like, she didn't need to be there for... I mean, I guess that's my question. Like, do you think that his whole thing with her, because it's very much... It goes very deeply into, like, his relationship with her and, like, the weird feelings he had about her, which, thank you again, Mr. King, for that. I don't know. Do you think this needed to be there? Do you think he could have worked as well without it?
I don't think it needed to be there, but it really reminded me of It. And I liked that about it. Because in It, the kids are haunted by things that they're afraid of as children. And each of them, you get backstory on the thing that scares them and why. And it's a very, very long fucking book. And sure, a lot of it could have been cut. But I think... I just like Jake as a character, and I just don't ever feel like we get quite enough of him.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with it, I think, is that this is sort of a reminder of who Jake is. Like, I think what it functions, like, what it does is just kind of a reminder, especially right now, like, he's tired, he's exhausted, you know, and part of what this does is remind us that, you know, hey, this is a 12-year-old or whatever, a 13-year-old. You know, he is a young boy, and, you know, and I don't think it's a coincidence that that immediately after we're reminded of this, he then has to face a childhood fear, which is, like, something that only a child would be afraid of. You know, and that's made very clear in the narrative, because, like, even he went back and watched it later, and he didn't understand why he was so scared of this movie. So, yeah, I think it works in that regard.
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten, and I've said this a few books ago, actually, that we've gotten so much information on Jake on Eddie. And so many little, like, vignettes of him and his brother and insight into why he thinks the way that he thinks. And with Eddie, his story with trying to find the door again really was supposed to serve as a combo of narrative and backstory or understanding of his character. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we never got the like information like this about moments, formative moments and relationships in his life like we did with Eddie. Yeah. And I'm still waiting for it with Susannah also. Because everything that we have known about her is in relation to the split personality thing. And there hasn't been a lot except for the activism work that we found out about recently, that has given us that much of a sense of like who she is. So I'm down for more of this for both him and for Susannah.
Well, I will say that with Eddie and Susannah, because of the way they were brought in Drawing of the Three, we do get a lot of like who they were before they met up with Roland. Mm-hmm. And with Jake, we never really got that. Because when Jake comes in the Wastelands, he is already losing his mind.
Well, and the thing is that Susannah is two different people still.
Right.
When she meets up. So, like, that doesn't feel like it counts to me either. I don't know her. I know two aspects of her.
Well, but she was split when she was really young, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So I don't feel like I know who Susannah is almost at all, except for what I've managed to glean from the story itself.
Yeah, I guess I just see her a little bit differently because she was so defined as as being two different people that we've almost gotten to know her in reverse in that way, because she didn't really become Susannah until after we met her.
Okay.
Right? So, like, I kind of think that I know who Susannah is because she was never really Odetta and she was never really Detta. She's someone else. And here with Jake, I think the crucial part is that, you know, what this really drives home, the more I think about it, is the fact that Jake grew up in search of a parental figure. Mm-hmm. Because it was something he never had, because as this part once again makes clear to us, his parents were kind of the worst. Like, fucking his dad, we knew that his dad was a dick. But, like, the references to like, how his dad would have reacted to the movie he's watching. Mm-hmm. You know, that Daisy May with the big old tatas.
Bodacious tatas.
The bodacious tatas, sorry, yeah. And his mom, who's maybe worse, telling him this fucking story about a fly coming when he's gonna die and he lives in fear of the death fly for his whole life. It's like, Jesus, lady. Could you be a little bit more of a person?
Yup.
So, yeah, the more I think about this, the more I like the way it's done in terms of just, like, kind of reintroducing us to Jake here in preparation for the finale that's coming. I agree with what you said, and that I like that he takes a moment to kind of mourn Callahan. Yeah. Callahan hasn't really been a huge part of the books in comparison to the core four, so to speak, and also Oi. But, you know, it is nice that he gets that moment.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So. All right. So we need to start not tangenting because we have a lot to get through. And because of that pause where I had to restart my computer, we've been going on for hours at this point.
Yeah, for real. All right.
So long story short, he has gotten caught up in a projection of a fear of this movie, The Lost Continent, that had cartoon dinosaurs in it.
Yeah.
And it turns out that even though it is a projection of his fear, it is very much able to hurt him.
Right,
which
that's
is
the
very
mind trap.
It-like. You know, it takes on the shape of something that you fear, but and despite being like a shapeshifter and whatever, it can still fuck you up. Like, it's not a ghost that is just there to put fear in you. It is there to put fear in you and then eat you.
Right. And I like that wrinkle. I've always kind of liked the trope of like, so such and such turns into whatever you fear the most. Mm-hmm. Like the boggart or whatever in Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. There's a great story in Alan Moore's run on Swamp Thing where there's like a demon monkey that does this to kids. Mm-hmm. And at one point, one of the narration says it shows this kid in bed terrified of like this big like tentacly monster. And the narration says, when he was young, like, little Timmy's aunt had instilled in him a deathly fear of cancer. Unfortunately, she had neglected to explain to him what cancer was.
Oh my god.
But, yeah, I do enjoy that this is like, it's in your mind, but also you can die.
Yeah, this is, there's also something in Dresden Files in an upcoming book that is like this, and it's done amazingly well, and it might be actually something that I read out loud. I haven't done a live read for that show yet, but there's some coming. So yeah, this thing is in his head, and he realizes that like it can actually hurt him, and so what he does is he realizes that Oi isn't reacting to any of the stuff that he's seeing, and doesn't seem to be seeing anything of his own either. And Jake realizes that whatever this like trap is doesn't work on the Billy Bumbler. So
he ain't got an imagination.
What's that?
He doesn't have an imagination.
Oh yeah, because they mentioned that later. So he manages to mentally switch places with Oi, and Oi has to be in Jake's body carrying his own body.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because he really cannot handle walking on two legs. Like,
he doesn't understand it.
He's just horrified by this, and he has to walk so slowly. And they're gaining on the two of them while this is going on. And it didn't even occur to me that this would also be a problem for the guys chasing him, because I assumed that this was like a security precaution. And
right.
that these guys would, have some sort of shield or would be able to deactivate it to walk through it. Not the case. Thank God. Because once they get up to it, they have to figure out how they're going to get past it and basically almost completely lose the progress that they made catching up to Jake, figuring that out. And their big smart idea is shoot the projectors.
Right.
Which does work, to be fair.
Sure. Yeah. Eventually.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and just the thing I talked about earlier, which I liked, was Oi seeing like a room in Jake's Dogan where he shouldn't go because he would never come out because it contains all of like Jake's thoughts and memories and language and everything. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I love the two of them. Like, they're just so... They're just special.
They're pretty great.
Has anybody made like an Oi stuffed bear kind of thing? I would want one.
Every time I see an illustration of him, he's done differently. Yeah. So it'd be very open to interpretation because he's never really like fully described. At least
I feel like he is like
he kind of was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. People do different things with it, but yeah, this dude Flaherty is who we're in the POV for the portion where they're trying to move through the trap as well. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a fun little diversion into the mind of the villain who's like, shit, I gotta get this kid or else I'm gonna be in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've forgotten to mention that when Susannah's getting escorted out by Nigel, she sees the other guy who ran away apparently has committed suicide.
Oh, yeah, because he didn't want to be blamed.
Yeah, and Flaherty is like of the same sort of mind. He's basically like, if this kid gets away, I may as well just end it all because it is going to be ugly, and really has the fear of God in him. So they are motivated, is what I'm saying.
Right.
We don't care how far you run.
We don't care how far you run.
We bring you back before we're done.
We'll bring you back before we're done.
We'll bring you back before we're done. And then he hears them. Jake can hear them and, like, knows that because they're screaming this, they're going to be running faster. Like, he's just like, yeah, I was singing Mighty Jungle to keep myself going, and these assholes have, like, figured out my little trick.
Fucking Marines, man.
They are on his ass.
Yeah, and he gets to the door, and of course it's locked. I love that he tries the door handle just in case. It's my favorite thing. But he gets in touch with Susannah finally. She tells him the password, and she pulls him through the door just before Flaherty can shoot him in the head.
This was very... Again, I was so confused when he gets to the door and Susannah's not there. Like, I thought she'd be standing there waiting for him. And like, when she said that she was waiting for him on her end, I thought that she figured that he was gonna have the Skolpata and that would somehow let them through.
Oh, interesting.
You know, but like, yeah, it's a whole other thing. I was just so I had it all messed up in my brain.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, he manages to get through, and
for yet a little while longer, the core of Roland's quartet remained unbroken.
Yeah, all right. Whatever. You know what, King? Shut up. I don't believe you anymore. So, last chapter on Turtleback Lane.
Yep. The chapter that you weren't supposed to read.
Whoopsies. So, okay. I know that you have not read Bag of Bones, right?
I have not.
But this is, it feels like to me, set in that place. Because in that book, he has a cabin called Sarah Laughs. And here...
Kara Laughs.
Yeah. Here, it's called Kara Laughs.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I think he's doing it just like, yeah, well, that's the name of it, and King just changed it for his other book that he wrote. So,
right.
Sure.
I was rereading this thinking, like, I was trying to figure out, I mean, not there's any way I could, but I was trying to kind of think about, like, how much of this is personal experience. Like, obviously King is from this area. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, like, how many of these names are people that he knew, and, like, how much of the detail is from his own personal experience.
Yeah, and there's a part where Eddie is looking out the window at the lake, and he says that it looks like a zombie's eye, and that he wishes that there was some wind to ruffle it so that it wouldn't feel like something was looking back at him. And Bag of Bones, there is very much something in that lake. So I feel like this is a couple of references happening here. But, you know, who knows? Yeah. So... Here, this is, when I'm going through a lot of this, I just realized, like, the last chapter with Jake getting carried by Oi, there's this whole thing about an old lady who insisted on going out when it was icy, and how she would hold her purse even though she was slipping around, and how
Eddie knew.
And it's like, you know, Eddie's not even here. We don't need his POV on, it's not really his POV, but, like, you know, there's so much in these chapters that it's not like it's totally superfluous, but there are moments where I'm just like, oh my God, all right, get to the point.
One of the ones that drove me crazy was after Jake gets out of the kitchen, he goes into, like, the next room, and it says it was like the storeroom behind the East Stoneham General Store, only cleaner. And it's like, I mean, it's fine, but, like, Jake has never been in there.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't belong here. I don't understand it. So, I mean, I understand what he's doing. He's doing the whole, like, oh, everything's all mixed up together and we're all secretly reading each other's minds, like, subconsciously, but, like, it just annoys me occasionally.
It's weird, too, like, because you would think, like, in that instance, it feels like he's trying to do shorthand, where he's like, I'm not going to describe this whole place. It basically is going to be me repeating the description of this other place. So
yeah, it's like
I'm
narrator insert.
That. But then he does the thing with the old lady, and it's like a 2-page description of her walking on ice. And I'm like, you know,
this is what Eddie would have thought about. This is what Eddie would have thought about had he been here, which he's not.
So they're driving down to meet with Cullum, and he meets with them a few spots ahead of 19 and is basically like, yeah, we're going to talk here because I bet you once we get there, you're not going to be talking. You're not going to be able to concentrate or say anything to me. So let's sit down here and we'll discuss everything. And then we will move on to the next step, which is Area 19.
Yeah, he's like, there's some crazy shit happening up there, and once we get there, we're not going to have any more time to talk, so let's do it here.
I don't like just how much time this takes, though, because it turns out to be about 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, at least 2, probably 3.
Yeah, and that is just so... It's just so much time with everything that we've seen going on just within the space of, like, you know... an hour in the other 2 chapters. I'm just like anxious about it. But yeah, well, so
they got a lot to get through because so Cullum first tells them that Jack Andolini is in the custody of the police, which Eddie loves, and then he tells them that he found their gear, which is great.
I was so happy about that. Little things like that really make a difference, and it's you know, I get attached to stuff. I have come to accept that I am a pretty materialistic person in a lot of ways. And it's a combination of just I like pretty things, but also knowing that I have the tools to do things the way that I have planned is super important to me. I don't do well with unexpected alterations. Like, have you ever watched one of those cooking shows where they're like, here are the ingredients that you're working with, create something, and they give them an hour, and then an hour into them cooking, they're like, oh, also you have to work jelly beans into your recipe. Have you seen that kind of thing?
I mean, no.
It is the worst. Like, that's a literal nightmare to me. I have my whole shit planned out, and then you come rolling in with your little cart with a bowl of Jelly Bellies, smiling all smug and shit, because you know that I'm making, like, dill salmon with cucumbers, and here you are with a fucking bowl of jelly beans, and you're like, yeah, figure that out. Like, ugh, forget it. I would be the one that would cause a scene and knock over the bowl of jelly beans and just be like, fuck it, I'm out. So yeah, I'm glad they got their packs back, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So then they start talking, and Eddie tells John basically everything. Mm-hmm. Cullum believes it, you know, which they attribute to just him being a rare kind of guy, and obviously meant for this story. You know, obviously a key player in this whole thing. God, I really feel like King knew this guy or somebody like this guy. It just feels so... Anyway. And they basically say, all right, so we're going to bounce, but after we leave, here's your job. Mm-hmm. You got to find Aaron Deepno and Moses Carver, and you have to actually make the Tet Corporation a thing. Here's the deed to the land with the rose on it.
Yep. And
your mission is to protect it and just to fuck with Sombra and North Central Positronics at every occasion and make sure they don't get what they want.
Which is pretty rad.
It's pretty great. I fucking love the bit where it goes into the rest of Cullum's life, mm-hmm. like, briefly. It's one of my favorite parts of this book. Is just, like, how he did everything, and they did some shit, man. Like, they invested in fucking Microsoft, but then they had to sever their relationship with IBM because they were too close to North Central Positronics, and they fucking firebombed a Sombra operation.
Yeah, there was some shit that went down, man.
I really like it. Everything, there's not a whole lot, and I don't think it's any sort of spoiler to say this, but there's not a whole lot more Tet Corporation centric stuff in this book.
Okay.
But I wish there were more. Like, I really like what is there, and I wish there was more of it, because it really really fascinates me, and I really would like, you know, like I would love just a story about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I agree, and that's just, you know, really an indicator of how fucking old we are. You
Why?
know, just like, it's like me talking about how I really enjoyed reading Jurassic Park because of the logistics. You know, I don't care about the dinosaur thing so much as like, what were they thinking about handling crowds? And yet, like, you know, this bullshit stuff that we're like, I'd really like to hear more about the corporate espionage with,
right?
You know, it's just, what the fuck, guys?
That's true.
We're old.
That's true.
It's fine.
It's like, it's not enough for it to be escapist anymore, man. I want to know. Like, I want to be in your board meeting.
So.
Oh, and also they give him the cross.
Yeah,
Roland's
that was what
cross.
I was actually going to get to.
Oh, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
This was described so weirdly that I didn't understand what was happening at first. I'm going to read you this, and it's okay. Put Auntie's cross around your neck, and when you meet with Cy Carver, show it to him. It may go a long way toward convincing him you're on the straight. But first you must blow on it like this. On their ride from Bridgeton, Roland had asked Eddie if he could think of any secret, no matter how trivial or great, which Susannah and her godfather might have shared in common. As a matter of fact, Eddie did know such a secret, and he was now astounded to hear Susannah speak it from the cross which lay on Dick Beckert's pine table. Now, the way that it jumps from blowing it like this, on their ride to Bridgeton, like, it just kind of threw me. And then the fact that Eddie knew the secret, but the secret comes out of it in her voice. Like, it really confused me. And, like, I've got it now. It's magic, you know, fine. But, like, at the moment, I was just like, wait, what?
I was honestly, like, that's super confusing, and I agree. I was honestly a little bit more confused by the fact that apparently Susannah, one time after they had sex, started talking about her dead dog.
Yeah, that's true. That is a fair question, sir.
Like, really? Now?
But yeah, the whole way that, like, the explanation of this is sort of pieced together as we're finding out about it was just a little strange. Like, I would have liked if we saw Roland ask him that earlier.
Yeah.
And then we see this happen here. But the fact that Roland is literally telling him about it before the audience knows what the fuck he's even talking about was a little strange. You know, we're going to have him say, oh, here's the cross and this is how you use it. And then we get a paragraph like, oh yeah, here's the thing.
Especially because, like, he's had that cross for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never been discussed having any of these properties. Like, as far as I knew, it was never even magic.
Yeah.
It's just the cross that Aunt Talitha gave him. So, yeah, that's pretty bizarre, and I feel like it feels like, you know, King's like, oh shit, how are they going to believe this guy? Well, here we go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I totally, it does kind of come out of nowhere, but again, you know, everything, especially in the Roland and Eddie sections, is being so fast and loose.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, and because of the way King sets it up, it's like you can just attribute it to, like, oh, they're in, like, a reality storm, you know, and shit just works. Which is fine, but it strikes you as a little bit cheap and lazy. That's all.
Yeah, and it's like, even if it were cheap and lazy, if it weren't confusing, it would be less egregious to me. But it feels really, like, kind of perfunctory, and it's confusing. So, but anyway.
Like, Roland must have cast a spell on it, right?
Right.
Like, that must have been
and
what
this
happened.
is the kind of thing that I'm like, are we not going to talk about how he fucking did this? We're just supposed to accept that he can cast spells on things now? He just says, oh, it's a sigil. Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess we're just doing that now. Like, I don't understand how we get 2 pages of an old lady walking on ice, but this shit doesn't get explained to us.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, like so anyway, that's the thing that Cullum, like, kind of really gets a little uncomfortable with, and it's just like, hey, is this magic? And they're like, yeah, you know, whatever, sure. And act like he shouldn't be, like, if you believe the rest of it, why can't you just believe this? And I'm like, well, you know, it's one thing to, like, believe something in theory, and it's another thing to see it happening in front of your face.
To be like, oh, wait, this cross is magical.
And it just talks to me.
Yeah.
So then,
I mean, the bottom line is he agrees. Like, it's a really nice scene, and I you know, it's a lot of good John Cullum shit, but, like, the bottom line is he's like, all right, cool, I'll do it. And we know from the little, like, flash forward here that he does do it. And that his only regret really is that he never got a chance to go over to the other side. Also, and I don't want to go on a long tangent about this, but I do want to say, we get in this chapter the first, like, explicit indication that there are two worlds that matter.
right.
There's Stephen King's world, which is our world, and there's Roland's world. And there's a lot of, you know, Susannah also explicitly talks about the idea of twins in the earlier chapter. And, like, how everybody's twinned up.
Right.
And everything is twinned up. And these two worlds are definitely twinned up. And I just think that's really interesting. You know, it's like there are two key theaters where this is all going to play out, and one of them's got a writer in it, and the other one's got the writer's story in it, you know?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I agree. Because that was something that wasn't explicitly said. We could have gathered it, but it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I figure, you know, the main character guy is probably the most important.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and, you know, it explains why they can't, you know, why they haven't been, like, bouncing around time in Roland's world either. You know, not really. And, you know, not really being able to do the same shenanigans there as they've been able to do in some of these other places.
Right.
So, yeah, after they talk and Cullum agrees, Cullum takes him up to Kara Laughs at mile marker 19. And they're, like, in the forest, there's this enormous phenomenon happening.
Yeah, this is nuts.
And all the fucking walk-ins are, like, coming out of the woods.
Yeah, so this confused me a little, too. Because they're seeing these walk-ins that are deformed and fucked up. But the light on them is so amazing as to make them look beautiful. Right?
I remember the thing you're referring to. I'm trying to find it.
All right. So I'm looking for it myself. But it just, okay, so some were pretty clearly children of Roderick. Their skins were covered with the sores of radiation sickness, and very few had more than a straggle of hair. But the light in which they walked gave them a beauty that was almost too great to look upon.
Yeah. Okay, there it is.
So I figured that this thing that was happening was something to do with the rose, because when Cullum meets them, he's like, you guys are gonna love it. Like, he is glowing and smiling himself over just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so I expected it to be an unmitigated, lovely thing. But then we have deformed people and a woman with one eye carrying a dead child.
Well, and there's it's, you know, overhead thunder cracked sharply and lightning flashed down into the center of the glow. An ancient fir tree, its lusty trunk girdled with moss, took the bolt and split apart down its center, falling half one way and half the other. The inside was on fire, and a great gust of sparks, not fire, not this, but something with the ethereal quality of swamp light, went twisting up through toward the hanging swags of the clouds. In those sparks, Eddie saw tiny dancing bodies, and for a moment he couldn't breathe. It was like watching a squadron of Tinkerbells, there and then gone. It's like I don't know. It's strikes me as very kind of dichotomous, like, beauty from ugliness type thing.
Okay.
Like those beautiful creatures he saw came because the tree got split in half by lightning. That's as best an explanation as I have right now. It's not really an explanation. It's just an observation.
I don't know. Like the fire, like the lightning, I get what you're saying, what you mean by like beauty coming from ugliness, but that's just straight up beautiful to me. Yeah, some tree got hit, but like still, this is human suffering and death, and she has a sorrowful look on her face.
Yeah.
I just don't really get how this is supposed to be like this beautiful moment that Cullum was excited for them to see.
Well, I don't think Cullum saw the people.
You don't?
Like, no, because he says, look at him, walk-ins, gory, there's hundreds.
Right.
Like, I think maybe he saw the light and, like,
okay,
maybe a couple of them, but I think, because, like, Roland is like, hey, we gotta get down there with some fucking urgency, otherwise this is gonna go away. It really seems like they got there, of course, in the nick of time, and, like, the whole chapter, the storm has kind of been building and building and building and building, and, like, won't break into a full storm, but won't go away, almost like it's waiting for them to finish their chat.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Cullum was up there earlier, the storm the storm was still kind of building, and, like, maybe he just saw the light. But now they're at the point where it's like, no, the storm is about to break, and when the storm breaks, all this goes away. That's the sense I got from what Roland was saying.
Okay.
So I'm not sure Cullum saw the people. I think he had just saw the light.
Okay. All right. Well, it was very unsatisfactory. To be very excited about something that I'm thinking is going to be beautiful and instead see a bunch of people who have been fucked up and lost everything, like fleeing to a country where their best hope is to run into Roland and be shot in the head. Like, I don't know. This felt like I was supposed to take something from this that I did not. But anyway, so they have to run into this thing and think about where they're heading. And Cullum starts to, like, follow them because he's so hypnotized by the whole thing. And, Roland has to scream over his shoulder for him to not do that, please. Thank you. That'd be great.
You have a job to do.
Right. So that's the end of the chapter, is them jumping into it and them flying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I gotta figure out what we're doing for the next one, because you fucked it all up.
Sorry, I ruined it.
Well, the issue is that there's one chapter left in part 1 of the book, and it's super short.
My bad.
So I feel like we're gonna have to read that, and then probably the first chapter of part 2.
Okay. All right, so 2. Not 3.
Chapters.
2.
2.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Maybe 3. I don't know. No, just kidding.
Hey, don't fucking confuse me. I can't handle it. I can barely handle direct orders, evidently. All right, so that's wrapped up. I'm going to say hi to new patrons real quick. Please bear with me, everybody, because everything was closed when I restarted my computer, and I had this all prepared, and now I have to open it and find it again. Life is so hard.
That's the worst.
I just, like, I really am kind of... I feel like the universe is just coming up with, like, more and more creative ways to fuck with me. Like, just having my mouse and keyboard disconnect for no reason. It's just such a specific thing to have happen. Like earlier this past week, 3 times, I just didn't have internet. Just straight up for hours. Hours! Do you know what that's like in this day and age when I do what I do? I can't do anything. It's crippling. But, yeah, sure, why don't we just get rid of my keyboard and my mouse, too? Like, random.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, new patrons this week.
Yeah.
Sarah Marsteller and Raymond. That's it. I didn't have too many newbies. So welcome to both of you. Thank you so much. You are special and wonderful and better than other people. And I hope that you are aware of that. And if you weren't, now you are. And join us on the Facebook group for patrons. Because it's a good time and there's a lot going on in there.
So, Natasha, I actually do think we should do 3.
Are you fucking kidding?
I hate to say it. They're all short.
Yeah, all right. All right, fine. But I don't want to hear anything about it.
All right, 3.
Okay. You jerk.
They're all short, and 3 lines up really nicely. Like, narrative law. So, narrative law. Narrative law.
All right. So, we're just going to
eat this book up in big chunks, thanks to you.
Ew. Stop it. All right. Now, did you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, y'all can go to mjschneiderman.com, which is my website, for links to everything that I do on the internet, including the Smash Fiction podcast, which the most recent episode... Oh, yeah, we did old Harrison Fords, and it was great. Old Han Solo, old Rick Deckard, and old Indiana Jones in a 3-way match was our most recent episode. We have the next episode of Extraordinary League coming out this Sunday, which is a ton of fun. I'm also doing the Odyssey Storytelling podcast. And I'm trying to remember what the theme was for the most recent one, because the one that'll be coming out probably on the same day as this for some people, or at least right around then, is going to be our full live show that we did in March. And I can't remember what the theme was. I'm just going to real quickly, definitely not look at my phone real quick. What? God damn it.
Vamp.
It was Sidekicks.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Was the theme of the March show. So that will be going up in its entirety on the last Friday in March, which is coming right up. I believe that is the 30th? The 2030th, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 30th, so that'll be up. I'm the host and producer of that show, and Sidekicks was a very fun program, as I was there for it, as I always am. So check that out, Odyssey Storytelling Podcast. If you want to support that show, then the best thing you could do is probably to tell people about it, talk about it online, leave a review, subscribe, tell your friends. That'd be great. And for Smash Fiction, go to the Patreon, patreon.com/SmashFictionPodcast for all your supporting us needs. You can also check out SmashFictionPodcast.com, which has some new cool like fan art and stuff that our friends made. And if you enjoy Smash Fiction and you're not already part of the Smash Fiction Facebook group, which I believe is called the Smash Fiction Fan Faction,
nice.
Then hit us up and you can be part of that. Natasha, you want to be in it?
Yeah, put me in there.
You want to be in on? All right, I'll put you in that group.
Whoop, whoop.
And then, universesofthemind.com is a website that has some writing on it from a long time ago. And
I'm about to just go shoot the server that thing is on and put it out of its misery. You keep trying to resuscitate it with your little announcements on this show, and it's just gasping.
I'm trying. I'm so busy. Anyway, there will be new content up someday. Okay, well, I think that's me.
right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening and bearing with us as I read the wrong chapters and lose computer connection and, all that. And we love you. And make sure to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter at unspoiledshow, Instagram at unspoiledpodcast. And you can become a patron at patreon.com/unspoiled. We love you. We love you so much. We'll see you next week with 3 chapters.
3! Not 4! 3!
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.